Hey everybody, Josh Neighbors here, Locked On Big 12 podcast. Today it is the 12th of September, 2022. And on today's show, we focus on the Nebraska football head coaching vacancy and whether or not Big 12 coaches will be the target. I think we're pretty sure in saying that, yes, some will. And we'll kind of look at which guys from the Big 12, Nebraska, could target to be their next head coach and maybe the likelihood that those guys take the job. That is the focus of today's program.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Once again, Josh Neighbors here, Locked On Big 12 podcast. Make sure you guys subscribe. Thank you all so much. We have hit 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you all for all of your all's support. We're not done, though. We're going to keep this push. The goal was 2,000 by the end of September. All right, so the goal now is 2,500 by the end of September. We've got about 440 to go to get to that point. So thank you all for subscribing. But the goal now, 2,500 subscribers in the next 3 weeks, a little bit under 3 weeks. Let's see if we can hit that benchmark. You guys have been awesome. I've enjoyed you guys so much. Have you guys comment on the show, obviously subscribe to the show and like the show. And I really do appreciate all of you. So the push for 2,500 is on right now. Make sure you guys find us over at your podcast, YouTube. Make sure you find us on Twitter at LO Big 12. And you guys can find me at Josh Neighbors _. All right. So we got the news yesterday on Sunday that Scott Frost had been relieved of his duties at the University of Nebraska. And it felt like that could have been coming after their loss to Georgia Southern. Now, look, they were not exclusive in this, in the club of losing to a Sun Belt team, but their loss was, one of them. I mean, all three losses were profound for Notre Dame and also for Nebraska. But Nebraska one was just a kind of, another moment of proof of something I think that we all knew beforehand, right? I think we all kind of realized that it was going to become the end of the tenure for one Scott Frost sooner or later. And this was the flashy hire, the native son that they went out and got, and it didn't work out for them. And so many people have given prognostications about what's wrong with Nebraska, what's it going to take to get back. And I'm going to lean on one of the folks that I work with. I work with him at SiriusXM, Tom Luganville. Thought he made a couple really good points. He says a couple things that have hurt Nebraska, and I do agree with this. Number one, the advent of cable television. You think about Nebraska's dominance, throughout the late the 70s, 80s, 90s, wherever it was. And they really were pretty singular because I actually think I saw Ted Roof made the comment about this today, the Oklahoma defensive coordinator at his press conference. Oklahoma and Nebraska were always on TV whenever they played. You could always count on that. Nebraska was always on TV a lot, right? Well, when cable television comes around and ESPN, adds ESPN2 and adds ESPNU, and they put games obviously not just on ABC, and NBC Sports comes around. Well, not that as much, but Fox and Fox Sports 1 and all of these places now, you can watch every single team. And you couldn't watch every single team always before, probably 10 years ago or so, but you really can now, right? Nebraska got caught in that because they're, one of the draws that they had was being one of the few teams that would be televised because of how good they were. And so I think whenever you talk about a draw for a family, or whoever it is, that's a huge sticking point, right? You can watch your kid play on national television rather often because of that. So you think about that, okay, that's a huge draw, right? And then television comes around and look, teams are succeeding now without that, but Nebraska never really adjusted, it felt like, from that. And they kind of still think of themselves as, in some ways as old Nebraska. I'm not saying they completely think of themselves as old Nebraska. Also, the other thing too, Tom was telling us about was they did a study on, I think it was the 14 recruiting class that Nebraska had under Bo Pelini. And the average amount of distance traveled for those guys to get to campus was like 900 miles, right? There's no recruiting hotbed near Nebraska. That's not the quality of football in the Dakotas. No offense to people who live there, is not great, right? Kansas City and St. Louis are kind of nearby, And also those teams that are really good, especially the latter ones, like they went into Texas and really that's where they could live. That's where they get a lot of guys in the state of Texas. And so they're just not having that's tougher to sell now, right? Southeast, everybody can drive. You can get there. It's pretty easy. But now you can't sell it as like, there's just not as much proximity. And now you can watch everybody on television, like the advantage of saying, well, if you're going to come here from far away, you can watch us on, you can watch your kids on TV. Like that's an advantage that everybody has. So, once again, they can say, well, everybody else like that too, so Nebraska should fit right in. They should be able to take advantage of the fact that, everybody can watch them. Yeah, but they're coming from the cable TV or the non-cable TV era, I should say. And that, they're used to having that advantage. It got stripped away from them. And so kind of everybody being on TV is not much an advantage. And it's still, once again, like it's not going to help. They're not going to get more players all of a sudden closer to home because there just aren't as many players where Nebraska is closer to home. So when you went for a guy like a Scott Frost and you think about, where he comes from and kind of the flashy come up for him at the University of Central Florida, like, yeah, this is a guy who was a grad assistant at Nebraska, grad assistant at K-State, grad assistant at Northern Iowa, and then Oregon, UCF, and then Nebraska. Like, so he has some roots that are there, and obviously, is the native son because he played football at Nebraska, but no head coaching success to speak of in that region of the country, right? And I mean, obviously a lot of success at UCF, but like not a ton to stand on. And it made sense at the time. It felt really good, but that momentum just did not carry over. And so now you're at a point where, I think they should have beaten Northwestern. They didn't. They got housed on defense by Georgia Southern. Should not happen to a Nebraska. And now we're at a point where Scott Frost is gone. So these are the odds. And I saw that our friend Derek Johnson tweeted this today. He is the host of Locked On Jayhawks. And he tweeted out this list from the folks at Bet Online, our partners here. Matt Campbell, this is the odds, the next coach. See, Matt Campbell, Mickey Joseph, who's the interim, Mark Stoops, Bill O'Brien, Dave Clawson, Jim Leonard, Lance Leipold, Urban Meyer, Deion Sanders, PJ Fleck, Luke Fickell, Jonathan Smith, Matt Rule, and Ndamukong Suh makes that list also, which I thought was, that was pretty funny. So you see Big 12 names on there. We see Matt Campbell. We see obviously Lance Leipold, and then I actually am not seeing Chris Kleiman on this list, which I think was really dumb, but because I think he'd be like a really good candidate for this. So it's kind of odd that they wouldn't put him on here. But look, I think those are the three guys to look at, and also future coach Luke Fickell is on here. So once again, Campbell and then Leipold are the ones you're looking at that are from the current Big 12 conference. And then also you're looking at one Luke Fickell and Matt Rule, who used to be in the Big 12 conference. So kind of thinking about all of those right now. Let's go through them all. Matt Campbell is the one that you look at number one. You think about Matt Campbell because of the success that he has had. They need somebody who's going to be a program builder. All right. They need to lower their expectations a little bit and understand where they're starting from. And what I like about Matt Campbell is that he has taken a program in Iowa State from, really the ground floor here. I mean, like at least modern Iowa State, and kind of just lifted them up in a very unique way ever since he came from Toledo, right? 3-9, then 8-5, 8-5, 7-6, 9-3 in the year 6 bowl, and then 7-6. And obviously now he's off to a 2-0 start this year. And so the things I like and about this are that even though last year was a disappointment, and it was a disappointment, 100%, to make no mistake about it, they should have been better than they were last year. Despite that, they're still checking off boxes at Iowa State. They're still ascending, right? So the way this works is, you have the consecutive, the winning seasons. And then I know it was a COVID year, but you get yourself in a really difficult year like that. You get an awesome group of players and get yourself to a New Year's Six Bowl, and you win a New Year's Six Bowl. And I think even the fact that they had preseason expectations back in 2021 shows you like how impressive it is that he's built something like that there. Okay, the expectations aren't like that here this season, but guess what they just did? They just went to Iowa, and one of the things Matt Campbell could not do was get a win over Iowa, and he got a win with a quarterback making his second start. And the guy, that offense led with a 21-play drive to go 99 yards, whatever it was, and get that touchdown. Like that is a prime example, like a tangible, visual example of getting the monkey off your back. Like that is grit and grind and coaching and skill players. I mean, I talk about Xavier Hutchinson. Like he was a guy who was so instrumental going at a guy like a Riley Moss. And you watch a performance like that, and you have to think to yourself, wow, man, like I know it didn't work out last year. I know the expectations were sky high and they didn't break through, but he's come back the next year when a lot of questions are happening and goes to Iowa and gets one. And look, I know Iowa's not good this year, but Iowa State was trying to lose that football game. They said, no, we're not going to do this. We're still going to play good defense. They went down early, and I was like, oh my God, we're doing this again, aren't we? We're watching the same movie over again. And they said, no, it's not going to be like this. So when you're thinking about a program that's down and needs to climb up, I want somebody who's kind of like giving us benchmarks and checking boxes along the way. And Matt Campbell's done a lot of that. Do I think he'll have interest in this job? I do. I think the one thing to realize, I love you, Iowa State. I love your fans. You guys are awesome people. Go Cyclones. The one trump card that Nebraska has, and this applies to every other person we're going to talk about here, is that they're going to be having $100 million checks coming in basically yearly because they're in the Big Ten, right? Because they are in the Big Ten and that television contract is so big and, they're still playing in big games. I mean, they're going to have that trump card. So while their advantages have dwindled, the one advantage they do have is the finances. And you still think like Nebraska with Scott Frost, Nebraska with Matt Campbell, like you're going to take them over a lot of teams in the West. And you're just seeing this right now in the Big Ten West. There is a definite gap being, definite opportunity, I should say, in that Big Ten West. I mean, you're thinking about the schools that we just saw this past weekend, right? Like Northwestern is technically leading. They're 1-1, right? Minnesota's 2-0 off a nice start. Iowa's 1-1. Wisconsin had a bad loss. Illinois actually looks pretty good so far this year. They're 2-1. Purdue and then Nebraska. And you think about it, like there is a chance there for a coach like a Matt Campbell in that division. Now, actually, they're probably going to get rid of their division soon, whatever. But like you think about the teams they always play, at least divisions right now, they can beat those schools. And even if there's no divisions, right? Like they can be better than those schools with a coach that approaches this job the right way and who's got some chops. Look, like he's got a tremendous defensive mind with them in the form of John Heacock. Like that guy is an awesome defensive mind. And we saw it once again on display this week. And they can get obviously skill position players and they can develop players at different levels like this. He's kind of the dream fit. I saw something from now. Look, once again, I do not want him to leave the conference. I do not want Matt Campbell to leave the conference. I want him to be here. And I'd already been accused once of trying to get rid of Matt Campbell. But like, obviously, there's a reason he's the odds-on favorite. We have to acknowledge that this is something that could happen. I saw something from Dennis Dodd that said if Matt Campbell went 6-6 or 7-5, that would kind of preclude him maybe from getting the job. Like he needs to show up and do better. I don't necessarily I don't agree with that at all. This team, once again, is kind of some unknown quantities of the Iowa State team. And like, I was kind of down on them. I think they're still going to go 7-5, 6-6. I think they're still going to go to a bowl game now. Like, I think that's really a definite possibility for Iowa State. And when you think about that for them, like that's a successful season. I forgot what the over-under win total to start the year was. They got one vote to win the Big 12, right? I think they were fifth or sixth place to start off the year, picked to finish sixth. So if they overperform that, like I know Nebraska wants to be all the way up, all the way back, but it's not just something that happens overnight. And once again, with the resources that you have at Nebraska, like it's not out of the question that Matt Campbell can take what he's doing at Iowa State and kind of build on it and improve it a little bit more when he goes to Nebraska. So I think for me, I definitely feel like this would be a good fit. And I think the idea that 7-5, 6-6 would take him out of that, man. Like I don't see that at all. I think you'd be ridiculous if you're Nebraska, at least you're ridiculous to be like, well, that's not good enough for what we want. I mean, what happens if if things for Luke Fickell take a step back this year? Like, you're going to say no, all of a sudden he's not a good coach anymore? No. You have to understand the context of where he is and what he's doing, and now he's building winning seasons over and over and over and over and over again, making that the expectation somewhere. Look, I know Nebraska's got separate expectations, but you're not good now. You're not a good program right now. You're just not. You've got history, and you're in a location where Matt Campbell come in and do well, but you're not doing well right now. You've got to build. You've got to set benchmarks. You got to check off those boxes and eventually get there. And that kind of takes me to the next part of things, where we go to the next Big 12 coach. Lance Leipold is 10-1 on this list right now. Also, Mickey Joseph, once again, he's the interim, so that's why he is right there listed at 9-2. Lance Leipold fits a lot of that as well. Also, once again, for Matt Campbell, just to kind of finish off on that point, he's been the head coach at Toledo, and he's been the head coach at Iowa State, and he's coached at Bowling Green, Mount Union, and he's from Ohio. So, like, he's about as Midwest. Like, everyone Midwest, man. That's your guy right there. Another guy who is a really good builder, developer, all the things we've been talking about right here, Lance Leipold. Now, look, this is not just because of what Kansas is doing right now, but when you think about Lance Leipold and what he did, obviously a lot of success at Wisconsin Whitewater, right? That is, very well known. He's been at Nebraska. Wisconsin as GA, Nebraska, Omaha as an assistant. And then also, his time at Wisconsin Whitewater, stuff of legends, Buffalo, and then Kansas. And you think about what he did. The Wisconsin Whitewater record is just gaudy. 109-6. 6 national championships during his time there. Goes to Buffalo 5-7, 2-10, but then 6-6, 10-4, 8-5, and 6-1 during his time there. What does he do? He builds it up and he can capitalize on big seasons. And like, once, maybe the guys like Matt Campbell and Lance Leipold will hit a ceiling. Maybe they'll do that. I think this is one thing I haven't mentioned yet that I should be mentioning. Maybe these guys hit a ceiling, sure, at Nebraska, but you have to get there first to be able to hit that ceiling, push the ceiling. Hey, okay, we got to get to a point where you got to figure out if there's a ceiling. You got to get to that point first, right? Like, if you're like, well, I'm not sure about Matt Campbell's upside. Yeah, but you're nowhere near achieving what Matt Campbell's Iowa State teams are. You're not going to bowl games. You're not getting, think about Scott Frost's record while he was at Nebraska, 4-8, 5-7, 3-5, 3-9, 1-2, 16-31 total. Like, Nebraska was not in shape to make, and they weren't making bowl games under Scott Frost. You have to readjust your expectations. People putting Nebraska at 10-2 this year out of their minds. I don't like doing that stuff, be like, because, obviously I could be wrong by poo-pooing stuff like that. But, like, let's be honest, like, I love Casey Thompson. I'm a huge Casey Thompson fan. I want to see him do well. But what last year, it wasn't just Adrian Martinez's fault that they were bad. Like, that was not a winning football team. And all of a sudden, you make some changes on that team, personnel wise and coaching wise, and what, we're going to flip this thing around, bring in Mark Whipple. Like, all of a sudden the offense is going to be great. And, their offense actually is pretty good. The defense is really bad. It's kind of the defense has been awful for them. But like, that was just going to change everything. Like, no, this stuff takes time. Now, I think Scott Frost has had the appropriate amount of time. I'm not saying he was the guy to fix it, but you have to be okay with the time that it takes. And like, Lance Leipold is a guy, when you talk about incremental steps, I mean, the incremental steps last year, it was like, okay, beating Texas, everybody talked about it, but it was the fact that they were competitive in the games that followed that. They were competitive against West Virginia. They were competitive against TCU. And when I go back and I look at them in the beginning of the season, their game against Coastal, their game against Duke, they were only competitive in the first half of those games. So like, they went from, in a single season where they didn't have the coach before, showing you progress because they were more well organized. And then they beat Texas, which obviously a down Texas, but a lot of talent in that team. And they go and they just hang, 50 whatever points it was on them. And then now you fast forward to this year. Robbie and I talked about it last week in their game against Tennessee Tech. You looked like a Power 5 team, and against South Dakota last year, your FCS opponent, you didn't do that. So that's a difference. And then you go to West Virginia in that game, and you succeed the way you did. Like, they might win 3 or 4 games this year. And I mean, if you're a Nebraska fan, you might say, oh, yuck. Like, I don't want that. That's not flashy, whatever. But show me where the lack of incremental progress is. Like, sure, you should have Whitewater and started winning, whatever. It's fine. Buffalo is up, then, is down, kind of average, whatever, first year, then really down. And then like that thing got built up and they started playing really well and then doing, very well for themselves. Like this guy's track record of improving a team is there. And that's what Nebraska needs. They don't need flash. They don't need the sexy hire. They need guys who are proven builders. That's what gets us to our next guy, Chris Kleiman. I'm surprised he's not on this list. I think Dennis Dodd did list him as a possible replacement. But you think about this guy, success at a different level at North Dakota State, knows what it's like to win championships. He's got 4 of them and lost in a semifinal, 69-6 in those years. 8-5 in year 1, 4-6, 8-5, and now 2-0. And I want to talk about this Kansas State team that he's built right now. Like, this team is a good example of what happens when you build. And I don't know about Kansas State's offense. They can surely run the ball this year. They really can. But he's built a defense that's got star players on all 3 levels of it. They have good depth. They tackle well. They do everything that you'd ask a defense to do. And when you saw them thrash the Missouri this week, it was off the back of that defense. They've created a team that, much like, and we're going to talk about more about this later on this week, but the Baylors of the world, the Oklahoma States of the world, like this was what their team looked like last year. And on the offense, I'm not 100% sold, but good Lord, that defense can get after the passer. They can stop the run. They can get to the flat. They can turn you over. They tackle well. I'm not sure what else I'm asking for from this Kansas State defense. And that's because he's built this team up to that point. And so when you talk about a guy that's a builder, like he has built something that's really impressive. Now, look, I know he's 5 and or let me go back to double check here what I was looking at. 4-6 was in there. Sure, that was a COVID year in 2020 though, so you kind of have to get the pass. But 8-5, a couple 8-5s in there, and then now a 2-0 on a season where you really feel like this could come together because you've got some special players at some special positions. This team is so well crafted. Obviously, I've got a lot of questions still about Adrian Martinez, the quarterback, but think about the running back that is back there, Deuce Vaughn, how good he is. Think about the fact in special teams, they got a guy in Phil Brooks and guys like Malik Knowles who can hit explosive plays for you when you need them. Once again, Martinez, at least in the quarterback running game, like there are 4 weapons I just mentioned that are actual legitimate weapons. And then the defense, once again, well constructed. This team will get tested, it will get pushed, but if you're Nebraska, you would love to have a team like this. You'd love to have a team that is built off of some core values. They want to run faster, or they want to go up more tempo. They always want to do more and more. And there are holes and flaws in every team. All right. But this is what building looks like. Like, look at what Iowa State's doing now. Iowa State has had that group of guys they had last year age out. Right. And the big question is, okay, can you keep it rolling? Well, they hadn't beat Iowa, and with a group of guys, I know there's still Xavier Hutchinson, and he's awesome, he's amazing. I know there's still Will McDonald, there's still some guys left over, but like, it's a new quarterback, man. It's a brand new quarterback. It's not all the same guys that we talked about before, and they went to Iowa City, and they got the job done. We talked to John Walters last week, the Iowa State play-by-play guy, and he's like, there's actually not a ton of guys on this roster. I think there was like 2 or 3 maybe who had played snaps in Iowa City before, who had played games there, and that fresh new group went there and got the monkey off the back of Matt. Well motivated and how good that team was. So I think that is something that we need to consider here with like all this. Like, Nebraska fans seem to have this idea that it's supposed to come easily to them. And I had somebody reply to me on Twitter. I'm not going to say who it was yesterday, but I was talking to somebody on Twitter about who they would want. And there were so many names, people want Urban Meyer and Matt Rule. Like, Matt Rule is an NFL job. He's not going to give up the job until it goes so sideways that he has to give up the job. I'm not saying he wouldn't go to Nebraska, but he's not taking that job right now. And Urban Meyer, he's a great college coach, but look, I'm not 100% sure. Like, I think maybe the game and how you treat people, I know it's not been long since he's been out, but it could have passed him by. And do you want the baggage that comes with an Urban Meyer at Nebraska right now? There are good options that are around you. And look, I don't want any of these Big 12 coaches to go. I really don't. But it would be ridiculous if you're in Nebraska not to call the guys we talked about. And another guy we talked about too is Luke Fickell. You'd be, I don't want these were insane, but like it'd be crazy not to call Luke Fickell after all the success that he has had. Now, look, I think these guys, I think maybe Luke Fickell and maybe a Matt Campbell, like they have, those are guys, we've heard about talking to NFL teams, or whatever, and they're definitely trying to find the right jobs for them. I think that there'd be some interest there with these guys in that job, but like, that Nebraska job, man, it's not as good as you all think. And so I think I think Nebraska fans need to humble themselves a bit, and they'd be really lucky to have any of those three coaches I just mentioned, because they fit that Midwestern building, a program builder that they clearly need right now. Guys who have had head coaching success in this part of the country and know how to recruit and develop and coach and get the next group in, and peak occasionally. Nebraska's not going to peak every year now. They're just not there. They haven't peaked in the last 5 years, once in the last 5 years under Scott Frost. And they want to get back to where Bo Pelini was. And I know he was having some really good seasons. To find a guy like that, I think the best chance they have with a lot of resources, once again, is going to be one of these guys. Give one of these awesome builders a lot of resources and watch how far it takes you. And if they end up hitting a ceiling, eventually they hit that ceiling and you make the change when it happens, but you have to get there and figure that out first. And they have not gotten there. They have not figured that out first. They have to get there. Last guy, once again, Matt Rule. I'll just touch on that really fast. Once again, with what we had mentioned before, Matt Rule 20-1, like he is the reason why he's 20-1. I mean, I don't think he'd off the bat take that job. Like, sure, if it becomes clear the Panthers are going to move on from him, then yeah, maybe you make that choice. But I think until then, obviously he's an NFL head coach and it's kind of a dream. And so we'll see what happens in that situation. But Chris Kleiman not being on the odds here. And I'm going to double check one more time just because I cannot believe he was on here. Yeah, he's not on here. So no Chris Kleiman on this list. I know he's not been at Kansas State for a super long time, and I'm not always sure that matters. I know Lance Leipold hasn't been at KU for a very long time. But still, for guys who are a little bit older, Kleiman and Lance Leipold especially, like there is a bit more of Nebraska meaning something to them. Lance Leipold is 58. Chris Kleiman is 54, right? So not like crazy old, but they are older. So, once again, that's not going to be the electric hire that the Nebraska fans want or hope for. But, I mean, if you're a coach and they have those kinds of resources, it's a lot of security, right? I mean, being in the Big Ten right now is a lot of security. And you all watch the podcast, I'm a pro Big 12 guy, but there's a lot of security, and Nebraska, in terms of like what they can offer with money and whatnot, I mean, it's going to be a step up from some of these places just because it's staggering the amount of money and support that they have from fan base, boosters, whatever. So I they don't call these guys good. I'm glad. I'm glad because I want them to remain in the league and in and around the league. But if I were them, I'd call. Maybe they have maybe I'm missing something. Maybe they have their sights set on better coaches, not better coaches, but other coaches in the Big 12, like Mike Gundy or Dave Aranda. I do not see that happening. I know Dave Aranda signed the extension. I don't see him leaving. Mike Gundy feels like it's a lifer. I mean, we know he's publicly flirted with other jobs before, but I would not, if I were him, it's too late in his career to go, I think leave what he has built already and go build something else. For Chris Kleiman and Matt Campbell, like Mike Gundy has already built essentially what you want to build in Nebraska. And that, I'm saying that because I'm not sure Nebraska's peak in 2022 and 2022 and beyond is higher than what Oklahoma State's peak is. I mean, think about it right now. Oklahoma State's a top 10 team. I'm not sure this group is, but he was in the Big 12 championship game last year. He wins at least 8 games every single season. He's an amazing coach. We all know this. So if I'm Mike Gundy, I'm not taking that job. I might leverage that to get more money, but I'm not taking that job just because it's like, I'm not sure I want to hit the reset button. I kind of want something that's already more established if I were to leave Oklahoma State. So maybe they have eyes for those guys. I do not know. But I think that they'll try to swing pretty for the fences. They should take some time on this, obviously. Urban Meyer is going to get brought up. I definitely think the Big 12 guys will get brought up. It'll just be interesting to see if their interest in them. All right, that will do it for today's show. Some more takes on the weekend will be coming up on tomorrow's show with Robbie Triano. Some takeaways, some things to look forward to. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at LO Big 12. You guys can find me at Josh Neighbors _ Find the show or podcast and on YouTube as well. Make sure you guys subscribe. Let's get that push to 2,500 going. I almost said 25K. Get that push going to 2,500 right now. Thank you guys so much. Till next time, as always, stay safe.